We sit down with new Blackhawks head coach Jeff Blashill next on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. We're glad you're here. Do us a favor, hit that like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm Mario. Oh, nope. That's Mario Tirabassi. I'm Jay Zawoski. That's Katie Duffy over there.
This portion isn't recorded.
Running the show. Yes, exactly. We are going to talk to Jeff Blashill here in a moment. But before we do, we teased it yesterday, but you've got 48 hours to take advantage of our massive Die Hard membership sale. $36 for the entire year of Die Hard membership. There's no difference. It is the same membership you're getting at full price, but you're getting it for $36. So yes, you get the free t-shirt when you sign up. Yes, you get access to all of our great written content. Yes, you get 20% off all merch and events. Yes, you get access to our members-only Discord, which also gives you priority on Mailbag Monday. It's a great deal. It is our start of summer sale. You've got 48 hours, though, to take advantage. And yes, it does, if I didn't say this already, includes a free t-shirt as soon as you sign up. So basically, you're getting a free shirt.
And then all the access.
Or you're just paying for a shirt and getting everything else.
You pay for the shirt, and then everything else is essentially free.
Yes. So take advantage of that.
Great deal for a year.
Yeah. Do not miss that deal. If you're not a diehard already, please become one using this $36 sale. We'd love to have you as part of what we do here. All right. Without further ado, let's bring him in. We're going to hop into the CHGO time machine and go back an hour and a half. Here's our conversation with Jeff Blashill. Joining us now on CHGO Blackhawks is new Hawks head coach Jeff Blashill. Jeff, thanks for taking the time out for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's an exciting time.
I know it's been a busy couple days for you. What has your experience in Chicago been like so far?
Good so far. You know, Chicago's a city that I've visited quite a bit, actually, just having lived in Michigan a lot or the Midwest, actually. And so coming back here has been great. It's been certainly busy. But in a great way. Excited to get going, excited to be part of this city, excited to be part of the fan base, and so just really excited to get going.
So, going through this process of coming to Chicago and everything, and, your time in Detroit, have you taken a moment to kind of like think about the full circle of things getting to this point and kind of reflecting on the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's funny. We talked as a family yesterday, and the jersey in Detroit was 15, and this jersey's 25. It's been 10 years, and it's amazing how fast that goes. But I'm really thankful, to be honest with you, to sit here today with the experiences that I've had, and I'm thankful for that because I know. So fully confident of the preparation that's given me to be ready for this job and for this opportunity. And sometimes I think you just meet the right kind of opportunity at the right time in your life. And this definitely feels like that. And, that wouldn't have been the case had I not gone through the different experiences I've gone through. And so all that kind of leads to just really being excited to have a chance to get to this job and execute on this job.
Well, there were some reports that there might have been some other opportunities out there, some other teams interested. What was it about the Blackhawks that made you say this is the right fit for me right now?
Yeah, I would say, where this team was at kind of in the rebuild process, in a sense that, the rebuilds are hard. And I think you guys know that, the fan base knows that. But to see that, it's starting to come headed in the right direction here as some of these young, talented players start to come onto the scene and grow. I just felt like with the depth of player pool and the talent level of the player pool, that this opportunity had a chance to really, really grow and become a great team. And I felt like my experiences prior to all my experiences going back to my time with the Indiana Ice and the USHL to Western Michigan to Grand Rapids, it kind of felt real similar where I went into those programs. Our coaching staff, we implemented a culture, a championship standard. We developed our players and we won. And they feel like similar experience to this. And then you couple that with the experience I've had in the NHL with the rebuild in Detroit and knowing some of that, and also my time spent in Tampa. It just really felt like the right fit. Because of that, it was I thought a fantastic opportunity because of the player pool and because of my personal coaching experience. I felt like it really prepared me to come here and be the right guy for this job.
You said yesterday during your introductory press conference that the Hawks and Red Wings are in different points of their rebuild. I want to just have you clarify. I assume you think the Hawks are a little bit further along than Detroit was when you took over?
Yeah, like I took over Detroit at kind of a much different time. And yes, to clarify, the answer to that is yes, simply, but usually I'm long-winded, so I'll just keep going.
That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd be a perfect guest. So no, but basically, when I took over in Detroit, it was the end. My first year was our last year of making the playoffs of a 25-year run, which, when you really think of that, that's incredible. And at that time, Pavel Datsyuk retired. Henrik Zetterberg followed him a couple of years after that. And what happens, as you all know here, when you go through that many runs and you have that much success, you trade away a lot of draft capital, you trade away a lot of draft picks, and so replenishing that it takes some time. And so, my second year, my first year there was the first time they hadn't traded for a player at the deadline. We didn't trade for anybody. My second year, we started to trade pieces away, and that kind of started the rebuild process. And then at some point in that, Steve Yzerman came in as the general manager, and really, and rightfully so. He said, okay, we're going to really kind of take it down. And so we started another rebuild on top of that. And so that's all that time is different than where we sit here today in Chicago, in a sense that some of that pain's you've already gone through some of that pain. Not all of it. We're not out of the woods yet, but a lot of that pain's already happened. And so some of the pain that we had to endure in Detroit, you guys have endured already. And so it's definitely a point now where I think you look at this roster and look at the talent level that we're going to have to start the season and the veterans that we have around them. We're in a position to start to really move in the right direction. Now, you and everybody else have asked me how quickly, and how fast. I'll escape that question right now. How fast? How quick can you get there? Nobody knows that answer. I don't know that. If I knew that answer for sure, I'd be the one and only person that could ever come up with that. I don't know the answer how quickly. I know this. I know we're not going to take any shortcuts. I know that for sure because I've seen that mistake throughout the league. And when teams have tried to force a timeline, you end up kind of taking you make mistakes that hurt you long term. And so we're not going to do any of that. We're not going to take any shortcuts. We're gonna implement culture, number one, and once you do that, it starts to take hold. Hopefully, it takes hold really quickly. Hopefully, our guys learn to play that level of winning hockey right away. And just to kind of clarify that part of it, like, when young, talented players come into this league, they were able to have unreal success a certain way at the junior level, at the college level. It's different in the NHL because at those levels, you can kind of have that success without necessarily playing a 200-foot game because you're way better than the people you're playing against. Once you get to this level, in order to win, you have to bring that 200-foot game up to par. It has to be great because you're not way better. The other team has somebody on the bench that's probably as good as you, and the other team is probably as good as you, are very, very close. And so that's where you really have to learn to develop those winning fundamentals and winning habits and making sure you're playing that 200-foot game. And so the quicker we learn that, the quicker our ascension will be.
You mentioned the veterans on this roster right now going into next year, being able to, lead the young group and the emphasis that it seems like, the prospects that are on the cusp of the NHL or, have a chance to get there have. Nick Foligno's talked a lot about identity and culture in his time here. What goes into, outside of like the style of play, what goes into setting up those winning habits and that culture? Because you have guys like Connor Murphy and Nick Foligno, long-term players, but compared to veterans that were here a few years ago, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, they don't have necessarily the hardware that young guys can just look to and immediately get it. What do you see in the veteran group that can work with these young guys and kind of implement that culture off the ice?
Yeah, my experience in this type of situation where you have you're going to rely a lot on your young players to kind of be a lot of your leaders, in a sense of offensive leaders, of a lot of playing time, of a lot of minutes, and you need those young players to grow in order to have success. When that happens, I think it's really important that you have guys, veterans that are going to be, and I use the term Papa Bears, and whatever term you want to use, an older brother or an uncle, or kind of where they are doing everything they can to help those young players grow and get better, as opposed to feeling threatened that they're taking their ice time. And that's a big piece of it. And so, not that our guys, our veterans don't want to be important. They do want to be important members of the team, but they also, we need them to be guys who help those other guys grow and eventually do take some of the spots and eventually do have hold those important pieces of ice time. And so, that's where, and it takes a special group to do that. It takes a group that wants to be here, number one, and two, wants to, understands, I should say, that the development of those young guys is the way we're going to win. And it's probably the only way we're going to win. And if they don't develop, we're not going to have the success we want. And so I think having a group of veterans that have that kind of Papa Bear mentality is really, really important. And then culture-wise, my when I look at the teams that have had great cultures over time, I think two things are pretty standard. Number one, there's a high standard, and guys are held accountable to that high standard. And, that's something that I think is critically important. And then number two, your best players play winning hockey. And if you just look across the board at teams that have had long-term success, here with Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, who I've coached, Detroit with Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, Nick Lindstrom, going back to years, Boston, Patrice Bergeron, they played winning hockey, Kopitar in LA. And I think when your best players learn that that's the type of play that you have to have, everybody else kind of follows suit. So that'll be an important piece of it.
One thing that I know the Hawks were looking for in the coach hire was accountability. And I wonder what that looks like to you in terms of, is it reduction in minutes? Is it a straight out scratch? Or is it, okay, last play, bad read, get back out there, try it again? What does accountability look like to you, and how does it vary from young player to veteran?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it can mean all those different things. Now there's certain things, when you start, I think there's certain non-negotiables, and so that's one piece of it. So non-negotiables are work ethic. Non-negotiables are compete. Non-negotiables are discipline. And, discipline takes its, if somebody's taking multiple bad penalties, a lot of times there might be a warning, but then you do it again, then you sit. But also things like if you're late for meetings, it doesn't matter what your name is. You don't play that night. And that would be a case where it might be a sit because of that, because that's a non-negotiable. We have to be on time. We have to have that. There's no organization in the history of man, I don't think, that has great success without discipline, and so you got to make sure you have that discipline. So those are non-negotiables. There are times when you're teaching things like, let's say, stopping on pucks, or what I call the verbiage, poke and hope. So, poke is like, I'm going to go by you and maybe I get it. And if I do, I'm off on a nice chance. And if I don't, you're off on a nice chance. Well, that's 50-50 hockey. That's not winning hockey. So when you're teaching guys to not poke and hope, and they poke and hope, I do believe in immediate consequence. I learned that from raising kids. If you are dad next time, they never learn. But if you make sure they have immediate consequence right away, they learn the lesson. And so that might be a time where you come back to the bench and you sit for a shift or two, because I'm teaching you that it's poke and hope's not allowed, and it's not acceptable. If you are in a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2 and there's a play to be made and you try to make that play and it's the right time to try to make a play and you turn it over, go back out there the next time. Try to make that same play next time. That happens. Now there's some bad turnovers. If you're somebody that's learning how to manage the puck right, and by that I mean there's times where you got to make a play like I talked about, times where you got to live another day. If you're in that scenario and this particular player keeps forcing it, that might be a time you sit for a shift or two. That's not games. That doesn't mean ice time's reduced to 6 minutes. That just means that those are ways to kind of implement that. Another example that I'd have is if you're, one of our better players. I think 1 power play time's a privilege. I think 6-on-5 is a privilege. I think 5-on-6 is a privilege. So even if you're one of the best players and deserve to be out in those situations, but you're not playing the right way through the course of the game, maybe that night you're not in that situation for a period of time. And that doesn't mean every time. Again, there's a balance between accountability and confidence. And so if all you do is just simply sit guys, they'll have zero confidence. So you have to balance those two factors, and that's kind of the art of coaching, I think, when to do that, when not to do that. So to answer the question in again, extremely long-winded way, it's both. It's everything. It's all those things combined. It's not one or the other.
You have to understand, we're coming from Anders Sorensen for the last few months, where answers were literally 1 or 2 words. So we love it. Feel free to stretch the legs and sit, talk as much as you'd like. Our post games be like, we're going to play the post game interview. It's 2 minutes and 12 seconds. But let's get to Anders. It's interesting kind of for you to come in and bring in the guy who was here before to be an assistant with you. What led to that decision? Is there any suggesting by Kyle Davidson and his staff, or did you already know that Sorensen was a guy you had your eye on?
I already knew Sorensen was a guy I had my eye on. I've known Anders for a long time. He was coaching in the Chicago area when I was recruiting a number of players in the Chicago area. Him and I have been to multiple like real small intimate coaching clinics together over a period of time. A lot of times at Notre Dame, we got together in those small coaching clinics. I talked to him when he was in Rockford. I talked to him when he got the job here. So he's somebody who I have a relationship with, in who I trust a ton as a person. I think he's an outstanding person, which to me is number one in when you kind of look at hiring people. But I also have a strong belief in his hockey knowledge, in his hockey smarts, and how he sees the game. I think he's got a pretty creative way to look at things offensively, which is a good compliment for me because enough times I look at things defensively. So I think that's a great compliment. I love how calm he is. I love how, just his approach. And I think the fact that as I did research, he had a real connection with a lot of our young players, which is, I think if we can I want to make sure that our coaching staff has that kind of connection. Well, if I already know one guy does, that's an easy, that eliminates that part of the interview process. So I think all those things combined made it a no-brainer for me. It was somebody that I wanted for sure.
Michael Peca is also going to join the coaching staff. What's your relationship with him, and what do you expect him to do with your staff? So Michael is he coached for Rochester in the American Hockey League for a couple of years under Seth Appert. Seth Appert and I shared a bedroom in college, and we were probably your bed was here and my bed was here. That's how close we were in this little tiny room at Ferris State University. So that's one of my lifelong, from college till now, best friends. And so when Seth was going through the process of hiring Michael, we talked a lot about him during that process. And then over those course of those couple of years they coached together, we had a number of conversations, and I got to know Michael through that process, and that continued on when he went to the Rangers. And so when he became available, because of the coaching change in New York, he was somebody that we asked for permission, and we were granted, and I wanted to talk to right away because of the things that not only I had learned about him through Seth and really felt like I had a real good grasp of what he was like as a coach, but also my own conversations with him. And the attraction is multiple. One, again, he's a great person. Two, he's a really smart hockey guy. He's a guy who's excited at what this coaching job is, because not all coaching jobs in the NHL are exactly the same. Sometimes you're
kind of manage, you're at that point where you're knocking on the door of winning, and you're managing kind of the group at that point. Here, we're going to coach and teach a lot. Like, that's going to be a huge part of what we do, is kind of that hands-on coaching and teaching. And I think in his heart of hearts, that's what Michael loves to do. He loves to get his hands on and coach and teach all those little habits. And, and to have somebody that's done it is important for me on the coaching staff, because ultimately I didn't play in the NHL. Certainly I feel like I've spent a lot of time in the league now where I have a good feel for it, but I didn't play in the NHL. He did. So when he knows what our guys are going through, he's got a good feel for that. He's done it. He's been there. He's done it as a 2-time Selke winner, which means I talk about the 200-foot game, and I consider Selke winners to be usually one of the better winning hockey players at that time. That's what they are, because they have to do both. They're not just defenders. If you look at the list of guys, they do both. Generally, they win a lot of games, so he can bring that experience to the table. So for me, it's just become a really good fit with our staff.
One thing I really like about the Peca hire too is you mentioned the credentials, the Selke's, the defensive play, the winning. It's a 5'11", 185 center.
Yeah.
On a roster, quite frankly, full of guys who are 5'10", 5'11", undersized forwards. You got a ton of size on defense, not so much up front. And when I look at a guy like Frank Nazar and think about his career trajectory, somebody like Michael Peca, to add like a little bit of element of that defensive game to him, that really makes Nazar a fascinating prospect.
For sure. There's no doubt. And even things like faceoffs, like talking to Michael Peca about faceoffs, like faceoffs are something that ultimately matter a lot. And for centers to get good at them, it takes experience. Well, you got to, now we have somebody with tons of experience that can help coach them. And I've seen, just even by having a guy like Luke Glendening on our team in Tampa and in Detroit, he helped all the young centers learn to become better centermen, learn to become better faceoff guys, I should say. Well, Michael can do that, for our guys. So that's just the faceoff part alone, much less the rest of it. Understanding all the little tricks of the trade, again, that I didn't do, he's done. And so, and as you said, at that size, there's ways to leverage your body, ways to get into certain battles. When you're not 6'3", you might not win a battle if you just go head to head. So what's the little tricks of how you kind of learn how to leverage your body or leverage your stick and win those little stick battles, all the things that are really important. So again, to have kind of that hands-on experience and have somebody that can come in and do that, I think is invaluable for our staff at this time, for sure.
What was your read on Kyle Davidson when you were going through the interview process? Did you know much about him personally before, getting the chance to talk with him about this job? And like, how do you feel like your relationship's going to be between coach and GM?
Yeah, so I didn't know him very well before. I had a couple short conversations with him. I met him at Chelly's jersey retirement. I was here for that ceremony. But I didn't really know him going into this. I know people that have worked for him that praised him as a person, and so again, as I said off the onset, like that to me is life's too short not to work with great people. Like, it just is, and so I know that sounds cliche-ish, but it's not at all to me at all. It's extremely important. So knowing that he was a great person, I think was a big thing. And then as we started talking, I've really enjoyed our time. Like, he's very, very comfortable in his own beliefs and who he is, and we can have we've had very good, honest conversations, and I think he sees. I think we both have kind of I've used the verbiage shared vision of how to get to where we're going, and I think I think that's important. Like, I know from hiring people myself, if you're at kind of two opposite ends of the hemisphere on how you on your beliefs, it's hard to even garner stuff from that person, because it doesn't quantify with you. It doesn't relate to you. I think with Kyle and I, we both kind of see the same thing in terms of what it's going to take, how we're going to get there, knowing that it's a development process. It's not going to be, these magical ads from the Ken Holland, as he used to say, hockey tree, where you just go and pluck these magical people from nowhere. It's gonna take that development and that time, and in the process of doing it the right way. And so I think we're on the same page that way. Really enjoy just being around him, which I think is a big piece of it as well.
Curious as to when you sat down with him to interview for the first time, What was your pitch to him? I'm sure he sold you like, hey, look how great our prospects are. What did you say to him that made, that if you're selling yourself to Kyle Davidson, what did you say?
Probably the things that I talked about earlier. The things, the belief that I have that my combination of experience and skill set make me the right person for this job, and experience at multiple levels of developing players, of doing that in different spots, of implementing culture, in finding ways to win, of having coached in the NHL for a long time under very, very difficult circumstances, and the lessons I learned from there, my experience having spent time in Tampa, that experience along with the strengths I think in my skill set, the ability to connect with players that I think you have to have today in order to really be able to be demanding on people. Like if you have a trust factor in your relationship, you can demand a lot out of people. And so I think that's a piece of the skill set, the ability to communicate and show a shared vision of how we're going to have success, and illustrate that to the team, I think is important. So I think all those things combined, to me felt like I was the right person for this job, and the job was the right job for me.
When you went from Detroit to Tampa, you're going from two different organizations in the direction where they're going, maybe to the expectations that they were at. What did you take away from being in Tampa, in the middle of their being contenders, work with John Cooper? Like, what was that experience like? And did you kind of feel the differences between how things were going in Detroit to how they're operating in Tampa?
We were at such a spot in Detroit where we were kind of at that beginning, that probably by the time I left there, we were in the middle-ish time of the rebuild, or still kind of at the beginning to middle-ish time of the rebuild. And so you're just at a different wavelength. Like, you're not at that point. We weren't really like free agency, for example. We weren't trying to make ads to necessarily win. It was more just about taking the time to start to implement some of the young players in the system and things like that. Where when I went to Tampa, they're in a win now time period in their organization. Everybody's arcs at different times, and so I think the time in Detroit was when I left there, and during most of my time there, was about a better tomorrow. Where my time in Tampa was about let's win right now, and so it's just different approaches, or kind of be based on where you're at timeline wise, where you're at in the cycle of sports franchises, which is it's cyclical in every sport that has a salary cap and a draft, and so certainly learned a lot though. Like, again, when you're in those experiences in Tampa with the number of elite players that we had, you get a chance to just learn from so many of those elite players and so many of those kind of their approaches and how they do things differently. And then to see, the staff in Tampa was great. Like Coop's a great coach, obviously. Jeff Halper and Rob Zettler, great coaches. Everybody involved, just really, really good coaches. And so we got a chance to, we had some good arguments. We had some good discussions. Those guys might say I was the reason why I tend to start an argument here and there. But I am a believer in those kind of heated discussions to find the best answers. And we had a lot of those, but you grow from those. So I think all that was honestly just a really, I would say this, like, I'm real happy I had 3 years there. And, when I first got fired in Detroit, I wanted a job right away. And the reality is that having a chance to spend the 3 years there was the best thing for me. It gave me a chance to reset, number one, and number two, gave me a chance to learn from a different program, really outside. I'd only been in one organization in the NHL up till that point. So it gave me a really just a totally different kind of look at things.
Well, you mentioned your time in Detroit and how they weren't really in a spot to add to try to win. And I think there's a belief in the fan base that this summer, next summer, is maybe the time for the Blackhawks to take that step and add a big piece to the future, a star-level player. I know it's day 2 on the job. I don't know how far you've gotten with Kyle Davidson on that, but is that sort of your thought now that the Hawks are at a point now where they can start looking ahead to let's try to take a big swing at a big piece, sort of like the Hawks did We're not quite there yet with Marian Hossa, but a similar style swing.
The thing I would say is now the Hossa one's a little different, but I would kind of think about, I would use that one as a reference in a sense that they knew they were ready to win a cup, and adding him helped in that scenario. Yes. So I just, I think I certainly wouldn't want to put a timeline on that myself, because number one, it's not my job. My job is to take the group of players and make them the very best we can. Ultimately, Kyle would be the right one to answer that question. What I would say is I think you want to add a player when you're ready to really, when it kind of pushes you over the top. And I think the most important thing in our focus right now is getting to the point to where we're ready to get pushed over the top. And that's the job that I'm looking at. How do we get the group of guys that we have that I know are going to be with us to that point? And again, like everybody else, I'd love it to be quicker than slow, but we'll see how that goes.
All right. Well, you've been super generous with your time. Mario, you got one more before we wrap up?
I was just going to say, do you have a favorite spot in Chicago for, the best meal?
Oh, that's it. Well, I don't know if I can go best meal. That would rule too many of them out. I can go anywhere from a quick fast food Portillo's burger and fries to some kind of Italian, or Italian beef even there. To I've spent a lot of time in the Tavern on Rush, Gibson's area, just from staying in that area. So I look forward to. Listen, I love to eat. And so
you're in the right place.
I know. So I don't know what my body type's going to look like a year from now, but I love to eat. So I look forward to experiencing all of it, actually.
Well, welcome to Chicago. Thanks for doing this. Super generous with your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Jeff Blashill, the new coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. A place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. Whether you're new at the cannabis game, whether you've been at it for a long time, Sunnyside's your place to go. They've got great brands like Good News, Mindy's, Cresco, FloraCal. All the great brands you know and love are available from our friends at Sunnyside. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois MedCard holders. And if you're a long-time Sunnyside user, you can use the promo code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. So there you go.
Nice. That's a good deal. If you've ever tried to buy a home, get a loan, or just deal with money stuff in general, you know that it can be a lot. And that's why we want to tell you about our friends with the Rate app. It is a serious game changer. You can get pre-approved for a mortgage in minutes without the need to jump through a million hoops. And if you're thinking about a home equity loan or a personal loan, you can secure one in under 15 days. Having gone through the home buying and selling process and all that, it is a lot to deal with. I wish when I went through that process, I had the Rate app. It would have been a lot more helpful and would have been less stressful, because one of the cool things that the Rate app has is not only going to benefit you with your mortgage process, loan process, whatever it is, it also helps you with your wellness journey. It has over 800 free wellness videos, stuff like meditation, breathing exercises, stretching, basic tools to help you feel better both mentally and physically. So if you're stressed out about a loan or a mortgage, the Rate app handles it. Once that is all covered, you can relax with one of their wellness videos, chill out. It helps with both your wallet and your well-being. Download the Rate app today to get started. And what's really cool is you can enter Rate's CHGO Summertime Sweepstakes right now. We're hooking you up with some sweet summer baseball tickets. You can get 4 tickets to sit in the bleachers with the CHGO crew and the Friday 120 Club coming up this Friday, May 30th. Score 2 Rate Club tickets to the Cubs Sox Crosstown Classic as well, coming up July 26th. That's going to be at Rate Field. The Rate Club is all inclusive with food and drinks as well. So download the Rate app and visit allchgo.com/rate to get signed up today. No purchase necessary.
And Taking the Temp is presented by your local experts at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. We're taking the temp of the chat as they watch Jeff Blashill's interview, and I think a lot of people feeling very positive about things. And I think as this process has gone on and as we've gotten to learn more about Jeff Blashill since the first reports, then the eventual hiring, then the press conference yesterday, he says all the right things. His mindset seems to be good. He's a very good communicator, very intense guy. Now it's a matter of taking these things he's saying, which I think everybody agrees with most of what he says, and applying it on the ice and getting the results. And that's where the ultimate judgment will be made. But so far, I feel a lot better about Jeff Blashill than I did 10 days ago or whatever it was when we first got indication that would be the guy.
Yeah, I think, as far as, fan reaction is, it's been, I would say, mostly even to, I guess, positive as time has gone on. I think people are starting to see a little bit more of why the fit works with the organization where they're at right now. And yeah, I mean, I think as we've heard him talk, as we've gotten to know a little bit more about the process of how, Kyle Davidson landed with Jeff Blashill, it's all of those benchmarks make sense. His experience, fit with the team, timing of everything that he's mentioned, a number of times, both with us today, and at the press conference yesterday. The timing is a big thing, and I think it all sounds good, and like you said, and we kind of talked about it a number of times. Like, for the most part, coaches say all the right things. Yeah. It comes down to how those things come to fruition, how he gels with the group, and this is going to be predicated on how this young group progresses under him. Because if they're not the guys leading this thing forward, then he hasn't done his job.
We should mention, by the way, 5 hours ago, Frank Saravalli reported that Mike Vellucci will be the extra assistant we've been waiting on. He was with Team USA at the Worlds, so obviously waiting to get in front of him, finalize contracts. We could not ask him about that because he can't reveal anything. Yeah. Negotiations are ongoing, but that rounds out your coaching staff. I did like what he had to say about Sorensen, and it did feel like a genuine answer where he knew Anders Sorensen, has a long history with him. They've gone to coaching clinics before. It's funny how, when we think of this stuff from a distance, it's like, well, he was in Detroit and they're in Chicago, but he said yesterday he went to see Nazar and Vlasic all the time because the national development team practiced near Detroit. Yeah. So we got to see those guys all the time. And like, they all know each other. This, carousel of coaches, they've all touched bases before. I was actually searching Twitter for Mike Vellucci a few minutes ago during the interview to see if there was any more news on it, if it became official in any way, shape, or form. And there's a picture from 2019 of him and Jeff Blashill golfing together. Oh, yeah. Like all these guys know each other. So I think the idea that, look, I'm sure that the Hawks said, if you'd like to keep Anders Sorensen, we like him. He's good with our players. We're not going to force it, but consider it. And he said, hell yeah. I know Anders. I think having that connection to these young players will be helpful for me. So it kind of works out for everybody.
Yeah. And pointing to Sorensen having the relationship with the young group already, I think that is just like we've mentioned before, like that's something to consider in keeping a guy around, especially when, you talk about the relationship with, players and the coaching staff. It's not just how they react to the head coach, but it's the staff in general. Some guys might not gel 100% with the head coach, but if they feel like the assistant coaches work well with them, those can be factors of like, you get what you're supposed to out of your head coach, but your assistant coach is someone you can also go to and kind of fill in those gaps of what you need to get out of it. And I think for these young guys, Sorensen can represent that, can be that kind of guy. So it makes sense that he's around. And yeah, coaching relationships. Like, you talk about Blashel's been coach at the World Championships for Team USA for 3 trips, I think he went to. So, he mentioned that, he got to coach with Patrick Kane during that 2018 World Championships run. And, all those guys get to kind of intersect, and you work with a different coaching staff there than you do normally. Like there's so many different ways that coaches cross paths. And, if you don't have a big network of guys you talk to, or people you talk to or bounce ideas off of, get a feel for, then, you're kind of falling behind.
On the coaching front, by the way, Nate says he'd like to know what the plan is for Rockford. Today on the Laz and Powers podcast, Scott Powers said the Rockford search is underway. Davidson's given other people in hockey ops department the task to kind of get that process started, and they hope to have a resolution within 2 weeks or so. Okay. So that's kind of the next thing to do. But Kyle Davidson is, empowered. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Megan Hunter. Maybe it's Brian Campbell, whoever it might be, to kind of like, hey, you get us started on the Rockford thing. And Powers did sort of point out that they want a coach in Rockford that is very committed to the development of things and not so worried about winning a Calder Trophy necessarily. It'd be great if they win it. Calder Cup, rather. That'd be great. But it's more about getting these guys ready for the NHL. So something to keep an eye on in the coming weeks. And also, speaking of Scott Powers, I'm not going to steal anything from this. You should check it out. He talked to John Cooper about the Blashel hire. So when the show's over, head over to The Athletic and read Scott Powers' interview with John Cooper regarding the Jeff Blashel hire. Kind of on that development front, when he talked about he was talking about Michael Peca specifically and how much he's looking forward to being a teaching kind of a coach instead of what he was doing with the Rangers, where it's a team that's trying to win. They're like Stanley Cup aspirations, and he's just there to kind of guide and be there for the players. On a rebuilding team, the role of the assistant is different. And Blashel said, like, Michael Peca's really looking forward to getting hands-on with these young players and working with them. I love that hire. The more I think about the Michael Peca thing, the more it makes a ton of sense. And as Blashel said during the interview, to have a guy who has played in the league recently, like within the lifetimes of these players, and has the skins on the wall, the Selke trophies, and a guy who did it at 5'11", 185, like, I think his message is going to go a long way with the players. I did not ask him. Maybe we should have. A lot of people have talked about Peca with the faceoffs. I wonder if that means that Yannick Perreault is going to be out as an advisor. I don't know why you'd get rid of him, because he's not there all the time.
Yeah, he's more of a just like a skills coach. Yeah, more or less, not necessarily like an assistant coach or anything like that.
Yeah,
I would imagine there'd be no reason to move him out. There's no rule you can only have one face-offs coach or anything like that. And yeah, I think the hiring of Mike Peca, like he definitely fits the bill of like a guy that can connect to and get that message across for the young forwards group, and be able to kind of align with what Blashel has been saying about like playing the winning style of hockey and being able to have, the Hawks have a lot of highly skilled forwards, guys that can skate really well. They have a high compete level. A lot of them have a high level skill set, but they don't necessarily have a ton of the like top of the lineup players that have that like two-way game. I think as ones that aren't knocking on the door of the NHL. Sasha Boisvert, I think, is one that fits that bill. I think
Oliver Moore could get there?
I think he's going to have to.
Yeah.
I don't think he's dynamic enough offensively to only rely on that. I think that's going to be something he'll have to work on, but that is a role he played both in Minnesota and with Team USA, playing penalty kill. So that is something that he's done before. It's just now he's going to have someone who at a Selke winning level did it in the NHL, and as you said, like did it as someone who wasn't, necessarily quote unquote big in the NHL. So I think that's going to be great for those guys. It's going to be great for Nazar. And again, there's just one of my biggest takeaways from talking with him today, from yesterday's press conference, the way Kyle Davidson spoke about it. there is so much emphasis on getting this prospect group up to that level. It really just feels like the Davidson and the org is really, as much as we've talked about, him in this rebuild process, putting his name on everything, like it really feels like he is really in that they're developing to get them to that level. And it's not necessarily going to be a lot of like, we're going to piece things together. Like it really feels like it's going to be, we're building this group.
Yeah, let's focus on that next because I think that's an important part of the conversation, and the chat's on it as well. So do us a favor. We got a lot of people watching. We do appreciate that very much, but please make sure you hit that like button for us and subscribe to our YouTube page. If you're new, checking us out for the first time because you saw the Jeff Blashel interview, welcome. We're glad you're here. Make sure that you, again, follow, subscribe, and understand we're here 5 days a week. And that's in the off season too. And it's also going to be, we also do mini pods every week. So there's 6 podcasts a week for you. During the season, we do post game, every game, pre for every road game. And we're still on however many other days of the week equal 5 during the regular season. So all the Hawks content you will ever want. We've had Alex Vlasic as a partner on the show. Nick Foligno's been a partner on the show. We had Duncan Keith on last week. This is your place to go for Hawks Talk. So tell a friend. Subscribe, all that great stuff. We'll be back in 2 minutes on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. And just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts. These people know their floors. It's all they think about. Connor Bedard's always in the driveway, working on a shot, keeping his neighbors up at night. That's what the Empire Today people are doing. They are just laying tile over and over and over again, making sure it fits, making sure it looks right. It is an obsession, and you are benefiting. Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor. They live and breathe flooring. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. You see how it looks with your furniture in your house and your dog hair and your child's laundry. You want everything to look the way it's supposed to look. You can't do that in a store. Empire Today brings it all to you so you can get precise measurements taken and answer all your questions. No surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So here's what you need to do. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners will receive a $350 discount when using the promo code CHGO. You heard us right. A $350 discount with the code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details.
And whatever the sport, the app to bet is Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it is sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. You can bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season, whether it's spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Tonight, Florida Hurricanes, Game 5. Does the series end tonight?
Yes.
I think Florida's getting some
reinforcements
back in their lineup that weren't there for Game 4.
They're so good, dude.
We're heading towards a rematch, and I know people are soured on it. Be like, oh, rematch. No, I'm all good for it. I want to see the two best teams play for the Cup final. I think Florida closes it tonight. If you believe so, go to Circa Sports Illinois and bet on that game. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. As always, must be 21 or older. And if you have a gambling problem, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yes. Don't have a gambling problem. 1-800-GAMBLER or a gambler. Every time we read that, I think of Gambler from The Simpsons.
Yeah, sure.
No one? Someone. Someone out there. Some middle-aged man is nodding in their car or in front of their laptop.
I got you.
So I know it's day 2 on a job as I asked Blashel kind of like, hey, is it time to add a free agent? I'm not reading into anything he said. I know people in the chat are. I don't think they've gotten that deep into conversations yet. And as Blashel pointed out, not his job, right? His job is to work with the players he's got. Yeah. But it feels like they're not super down on making a big swing for Mitch Marner. Scott Powers reported that. I think it was last week.
Mm-hmm.
And as Blashel said, and I'm not trying to, I want Mitch Marner. Don't get me wrong. I think they have to talk to him. I'm just getting people ready for July 1st when it doesn't happen, including myself.
Right. Yeah.
But as Blashel said, the time you sign a big name player is when you are ready to win, not trying to get competitive, but ready to win. I agree with that, but I still want an elite player or two, even if it's not Mitch Marner, added to this team to help just them be a little more competent, a little more competitive. Because look, if they go young and it's Nazar, it's Moore, it's Levshnov, it's Renzel, it's, six young defensemen and Connor Murphy, the team could very well have a worse record than last year. I think it will feel different.
Mm-hmm.
It will feel more fun. It will have some shark-like energy to it because there's so many young guys. You probably feel you have a coaching upgrade in Blashel.
Right.
However many wins that translates to remains to be seen. But I do think it is time to make the NHL team a little bit better up front and give Connor Bedard some help. I do think it is time to start considering that. And I if it's not Mitch Marner, if it's not one of the big free agents, a name popped today. Jimmy Murphy, who's been covering hockey in Boston forever, had a report, and it's kind of been floating out there anyway, that Minnesota might be looking to move on from Marco Rossi. Marco Rossi is another tiny little forward. However, he's going to be 24 when the season begins. In 185 games, he's got 45 goals and 56 assists. Last year, 24 goals and 36 assists and 60 points in 82 games. He's won 46% of his faceoffs. The speculation is that the Wild would want a win now type player back. Would you, Mario Tirabassi, chat, etc., trade the Toronto pick and Jason Dickinson for Marco Rossi?
In a heartbeat. Absolutely.
Okay, so is that enough to get it done?
Probably not.
Okay. So the next question is naturally, what is enough for Marco Rossi? And to me, the numbers all make sense. Adding another, because he would need a new deal. He's an RFA.
Right.
Adding another smallish forward does concern me a little bit. A little bit.
Look, Jimmy Murphy's report was that the Blackhawks have expressed interest in getting Marco Rossi.
Yeah, I think it was Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Buffalo were the other three.
So it seems like from that, there already is something in motion to try and have some discussions. There are ways for teams to have size in the right areas that they need. The Blackhawks defensively are trees.
Yeah.
Big guys on the blue line, that's fine. There's ways that you can, through free agency, through trades, however, you can add size. I think if you can play in the NHL and be effective, you can find a spot. You can find a way. And Marco Rossi has been able to find a way to be effective in the NHL, play 2 seasons in a row, full 82 games. It doesn't seem like, the health scares are behind him. At 24 years old, to have a guy that can play the way that he can, that's an immediate top 6 upgrade. And yeah, I think the Blackhawks should be all over players like that. There's been a number of expiring RFA deals that players on expiring RFA deals that I think the Blackhawks should definitely be kicking the tires pretty hard on, to gauge the interest of how they can get here, whether it's trading for RFA rights or offer sheets. There's ways that Kyle Davidson can be aggressive with that. I think if you're going for a guy like Rossi, or if it's Owen Byram, or if it's Keandre Miller, JJ Peterka, you're throwing in that Toronto pick, you're probably throwing in another draft compensation. And then, yeah, if you're going for win now guys,
that's the problem is the Hawks don't have a lot of guys that are going to help contenders win immediately.
No,
that's kind of that's the one thing. You could talk about draft capital all you want, but a team like Minnesota, who is finally
they want
feeling ready to win, and they've got a butt ton of cap space, like that. Like they don't want. I mean, sure, they might like Kevin Korchinski or somebody as a throw-in. Not that you know what I'm saying. Like Kevin Korchinski right now does not help the Minnesota Wild win the Stanley Cup next year.
No.
It strengthens their prospect pool and it helps them refresh when a veteran leaves or whatever. But they need help now. And I look at a guy like Dickinson as a really good fit for a Bill Guerin led team. Like I think that Guerin would love a guy like Dickinson, who's not going to be their second line center.
No,
but
I mean he might not even be their third.
That's a dude you love in a playoff run.
Like I look at the Blackhawks roster and I look at like who are guys that would fit that like would be intriguing to a contender that's trying to win right now. Bertuzzi, maybe Tavo, Dickinson, Mikheyev, like that's really all you have to offer.
Yeah.
And I don't
really want to move any. I know we're all sour on Bertuzzi, but he does bring something the team doesn't have. And he's consistent in his production, even though he's inconsistent. He's very up and down, streaky.
Right.
If you're trading Bertuzzi and Dickinson for Marco Rossi, now you're really talking about.
Yeah, you're really changing the dynamic of the roster.
Yes.
So I'm all in on Davidson going for it. But if teams are looking for we want NHL talent that's going to step in right away and not just be a roster plug, Hawks really don't have it. If they and one of the best guys that they could have had was Ryan Donato, who's likely hitting the market.
Sure feels
if he's
that
not
way.
signed by now.
Yeah,
seems definitive that he's going to go to going into the free agent market. He could still re-sign with Chicago. It's just he's going to see what's best out there. So
as he should, he's earned that right.
Yeah, for sure,
definitely. I do want someone. I think it was Dave Keith corrected me. I said I need to sign elite free agent. Elite is the wrong word. Thank you for calling me on that because there's only one elite free agent. It's Mitch Marner. Brock Besser, Nikolai Ehlers are not elite players, but they're very good players, all-star level players. That's what they need to sign. Like legitimate top 6 on a contender type players. Yeah. So elite is probably the wrong word. I did use the wrong word.
High end. You want guys at the top of the free agent list, guys that garner interest around the league. You want to be in those conversations. You want to be able to, talk to those players and it's, I don't want to say it's easy, but to offer a guy like Alec Martinez, who probably didn't have his phone ringing off the hook leading up to July 1st, it's to say, hey, come here for a year over market value at $4 million or in change, whatever his contract was. It's a little bit easier to go out and get somebody like that than it is to go after the players that everyone's talking to, that everyone is interested in, and being able to offer them something that is going to be, attractive to them and make sense for them. If Nikolai Ehlers or Brock Besser are those guys that can come over here and improve the top 6 and push the team forward into that kind of, they would feel like the Martin Havlats of 20 years ago. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Those guys that like definitely elevate the group, but aren't going to be the guys that put you over the hump. And there really is no hump for this team to get over yet, other than getting out of the basement of the league.
Right. Optimus 07 says, we just got done talking about Peca, and we are still voicing concern about physical size. Good thing we aren't GMs. I don't think individually size is a concern, but as a group, the forward group, if Marco Rossi's added and Dickinson or Tavo or Bertuzzi is taken away, it is a small forward group.
Yeah.
That makes Nick Foligno your biggest forward. And Nick's a big, built dude, but I that's my concern is there's just too many of them. And they're not all going to play like Mike Peca. Mike Peca is a bit of a unicorn in that way.
There's too many small guys.
Yeah, I don't mind I don't mind that. I just think that you can't have your top 6 can't be all under 6 foot. That's a tough sell.
The average height for the Hawks at the end of the year was, let's see, 6'2".
Okay, now do just the forwards.
That's not how it works.
Take out Renzel, take out Vlasic, take out,
Average height of the Hawks was 6'2". Average weight was 196. So by height, they were the 14th tallest team.
Okay, is Louis
collectively.
Crevier on that list?
I don't know.
And Sam Renzel's probably on that list?
Yeah.
Like,
well, look, if they're on your NHL roster, they're part of your group. But that 196 pounds was 29th in the league. So they're a tall, stringy team collectively.
Get fatter, Blackhawks. I can help. This is something I will offer my services to the Blackhawks, the director of fatness. I am very happy to help the Hawks gain weight. Jeff Blashel sounds like he's on his way. He's going to look like Bruce Boudreau, by the way, by the time his tenure in Chicago is over.
Barbecue sauce on his face.
I love Jordan Aaron his shirt during the intermission.
Yeah.
That I will volunteer. You get Hawks know where to find me. They always do. I will be your administrator of fatness. Happy to do that. But yeah, anyway, thanks for checking out the Jeff Blashel interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Share it wide, share it long. I think it was just, as a lot of people in the chat said, like, it's really easy to say the right things. It is. You're right. He wasn't going to come in here and be like, you know what I think we should do? Connor Bedard, penalty kill specialist. You know what I think we should do? Be really passive on the puck and just let teams do what they want and then just skate themselves into submission. No, he's going to say the right things, but the more you dig, the more you listen, the more you hear him explain. The part I really liked the most was when he was very specific about how accountability works.
Yeah.
I love that. And that was the thing I wanted to hear the most. And I really liked the way that he laid that out. For instance, if X happens, then the result is Y. And he's already thought about these things. He's already been through these things. I'm excited for the season to begin for many reasons, but how many times last year did we hear this team needs a culture? This team needs a culture. It is what he is hoping to instill from day one of training camp.
Yep.
And seems like the kind of personality, hopefully, that can get it done.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you being with us. We told you about it in the beginning of the show. Want to remind you one more time, 48 hours in our Die Hard sale, $36. It's our start of summer Die Hard offer. $36 for the entire year of Die Hard membership. Go to allchgo.com and go over to that Die Hard tab to sign up. You get a free shirt when you sign up. It is the same as the full price membership. Nothing is cut out. 20% off merch, 20% off events. We've got our golf outing coming up on June 6th. You can sign up to golf in a foursome with Mario and me. So it's going to be a good time. Save on your membership, save on your merch, save on everything by becoming a CHGO diehard. We will talk to you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. No guests for now, but we never know.
23 hours.
You never know what might happen. So we'll talk to you then right here on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.